Alright, so yesterday we got a tweet made by the Sacred Treasure podcast here, which has driven up some reply, not so very nice replies, and it's a tier list ranking. Oh, nice framing. The UR festivals. Now, this list is hilarious, and now I'll explain why. This is not the first time. Actually, these guys giving me a free video to make. So thanks for the, I think it's the second free video, guys. I get a reason to go over this. So this is the ranking. I am assuming this ranking is based entire game, because if this is a PvP only, I didn't watch their stream or whatever they do to do the ranking. I'm gonna make two versions of this. PvP and PvE. Oh, sorry, not PvP. PvP and then whole game. Who cares about PvE? There's PvP and then there's the whole game, right? Because PvE, let's be real, is less important than PvP. PvE, for the most part, is just stuff you get for PvP. Like, demonic beasts, sure, it's a hard activity and you need good characters, but most of the time, you're doing it to get relics for characters for PvP. Really think about it. That's the whole point of the game mode, is getting holy relics so that you can use the relics in PvP. Nanashi, whatever, right? Those OP relics you need, that's why you're doing that game mode. And whatever other PvE game mode out there is also the same, like True Awakening, you don't need 10% damage reduction to go fight a demonic beast. You need it for PvP. That's why you do the Demon King fight. It's not because you really want that 10% for the rat. Sure, it's an extra bonus having it, but you want it for the 1000 CC for PvP. That's why you're doing True Awakening. It's not for PvE, it's for PvP. So, but, you know, I still want to make sure to include whole game in this whole thing. So, at the bottom, number 5, obviously, is going to be the new Sabnak. So this, first we're going PvP. So this is PvP, right? Sabnak, unfortunately, released at a time of transition. Unknowns are gonna eventually transition into potentially being a competitive team, but right now it's not. So, I can ignore facts. At the moment, Sabnak does not do any favors for, you know, this ranking. She's good, but she's just not as good as the other UR festivals, because her competition in this list is the UR festivals. The best characters in the game, right? So, unfortunately for her, she's at the bottom. I don't think I need to explain very much, because we are all tired of hearing about her. She released, 2 weeks ago or a week and a half ago. So we know it. We know enough. It was a week ago. Feels like a long time. It's been very tedious playing this game with this character, because it's very nothing, Unknowns are good, but they're not the best, so it's like, oh, I'm every match I face is Sins or humans. Essentially, it's just Sins or humans. Now, this is where everyone came down on them, because they put Arthur in number 4, but Galfer is clearly number 4, and I'll explain. Galfer is only on the Sins team for one reason. CC. That is the only reason Galfer is in the Sins team. Because, realistically, King is a better unit. This King right here is a better unit than Galfer. If not for the CC difference, this guy would be on every Sins team. I'm not joking. The shield is very good, and he has an AoE, which is great with melee. The only reason why people run Galfer over King is CC. That's it. I cannot, in good conscience, say that Galfer, literally a CC unit. The only reason why he's run is for CC. Yeah, the rank up is cool and all, but that was cool when Askener first dropped, and everyone was like, look how hard he hits. That's me. That's me speaking that on my videos. Whoa! That is a perfect recreation of me when Ascora dropped. Guess what? Right now, that's not really how it goes. Ranking up Ascanor turn 1 doesn't really amount to much. If you're facing a human team or a Sabnak, it's just not really it, right? So you're comboing, you're doing the 1, 2, 3, and guess what? If you could have had an AoE like King's, it would be much better for spreading the melee passive. So King is a better character that unfortunately cannot be used as much because of the CC, and I will die on this hill. And if you don't believe me, it's because you just haven't played with King. Truly, it's because you just haven't played with King. He's really, really great. I mean, he's not great, right? He's better. Being real, Galfer just sucks. But he's a UR festival, so we need to use him. King is better. He's the better option between the two of them if CC was not an issue. And if you can't go first, by the way, like let's say even if you have Galfer, even if you do, you can't go first because your box is too low. King is a better option for you regardless. If it's between using King or Galfer and you can't go first, let's say you had 5 million box AC, which is incredibly low, right? You can't go first against people because your box is so low, but you have both of these characters, I would 10 out of 10 times tell you to use King. That shield is way more important. So, hey, you can disagree, but if you disagree, it's because you just don't have King. You didn't summon for King, which I don't blame you. It was a regular banner, right? Summoning for festivals is way better than summoning for regular banners, and summoning for Galfer was better than summoning for King. I'm not going to argue against that. Summoning for Galfer was better than summoning for King because Galfer, because of the CC, is a better option, but again, with the asterisk, is a better option if the extra CC matters. If you can't go first anyways, King is better. So, that is why Galfer is 4th. It's not because, oh, but he's used on the best team in the game. Arguably, because I would argue Humans is a better team for Geared. Yeah, I'll also die on that hill. Arthur is number 3, only because Melee and Ascanor are just obscene. But Arthur is number 3. Humans is, I think, the best geared PvP team. Ungeared, Sins, for sure. Geared, I think it's Humans. And if you play geared PvP, which a lot of you guys don't play, a lot of you guys don't even play the game because it's because you already got your Champ 1. You're like, okay, I'm gonna wait for the next patch. Nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. If you already got your Champ 1, and you're just like, okay, now I'll just log in, right? I'll play other games while I'm waiting. The Elden Ring DLC came out like recently, right? I'll play that, and then next patch maybe I'll summon. That's normal. That is completely normal. If you don't play geared, you might not even know this, but Humans is most of the matches. If I play geared, Humans is like 9, maybe 8 out of 10 of my matches. It's that common because it's just better. Humans is slightly better than Sins in geared. So anyone that thinks Galfer is more used than Arthur is just wrong. It's just wrong. Arthur is a phenomenal character in so many ways. You can't even compare the two of them. If you were to isolate, let's ignore the fact that Galfer is a CC stick for Sins, by the way. Completely ignore that, right? Let's pretend you're just going 1-for-1 on characters. Arthur versus Galfer, right? Can you even begin to argue against Arthur when he does a shit ton of things? He protects the team. He solo damages. If you have no other damage dealer on your team, Arthur still can win for you. Not ideal, but he can. He has a bajillion HP. I would say the only argument against Arthur is that he is a one-team character. That's it. I genuinely can't see another argument against him other than the fact that he's a one-team character. Galfer is a one-team character and a half. You can use him in Unknown. It's not ideal. It's not it's not as good. It's not nearly as good. And, if you think that he's best in slot for Unknown, you just haven't been playing the game. Like, best in slot for Unknown is Fitoria, Sabnak, and Hell is on her way out. So, that's Unknown. Or if you don't want to use Hao, you can use a different option, but Gaffer is not best in slot. So, Gaffer is 1.5, because he has half a team. Arthur is a one-team guy. That's his worst, like, trait. And lots of characters right now are one team. Galda's one team, like, you're not running her in Unknown. Like, you can... No one's running her in Unknown, so no one's gonna argue against me, but, like, yeah, you can't argue for that, you're just not. So... Arthur is such a good character, so well designed. Again, only thing that brings him down that you could say is that he depends on how good humans are. And guess what? Humans are amazing. So, right now, right? And we're talking about right now. Now, second option. Now, this is going to be one that people might argue, right? That's why I'm going to explain very hard. Melee is second place. Again, if you skipped around the video and you're going to be like, this is for PvP only, okay? PvP. Melee second place, Ascor is number 1. My argument is exactly what I just said about Sins and Humans. Sins is the best Sins is the best ungeared team. Humans is the best geared team. Guess who's in both teams? Escanor. Do you know why? Do you know why Humans dominates geared and Sins dominates ungeared? Because Escanor is in both. Escanor is so unbelievably OP. He doesn't make both teams. Both teams have obviously like very OP characters in both of them. Like Unknown. Sins in Ungeared has Melee, which is obviously another OP character. And then Humans in Geared has Arthur, which is another OP character. So both of these teams have Ascanor, and they're both gods here. Melee, if you look at his second best team, is Demons. Demons is good, but it's not as good as Sins or Humans. That's my point, right? So, Arthur has a one team. Melee has a one team. Realistically, because there's two best teams. Third place, Demon, is like... There's a bit of a gap between second and third place. Right now, it's like Sins and Humans are neck and neck, and then Demons are like a little bit behind. And then a little bit behind them is Unknown. There's like a gap between the first two places and third place. And even then, like if you were to isolate, I'll still say Ascanor is a better unit. Both of them have pay to win passives, so I can't argue for, you know, that for either one of them. Ascanor is way less restrictive in terms of his passive. For example, like Melee, you need to set up his removal, or you need to be debuffed for him to get the boost. Once you do set up, and once you do get the boost, crazy shit happens, right? He hits super hard, he can wipe teams. Ascanor, he's good as he is, and there's no setup. That's the thing, like, he is a consistently great character. If I have to think, like, who is gonna fall off first, right? If I had to guess, it's gonna be Ascanor. The reason why I know this is because utility based, the Melee has a bit more utility. So right now, yeah, Ascanor is number 1 in PvP. I think people could argue, but I think you're wrong for one. But I think more people would argue for me than against me on this, because if you've used Ascanor, you just know the HP removal, the permanent HP removal, is super OP. His single target is absurd, and there, again, unlike Melee, there's no cooldown for him. Melee does one single target with the attack boost, and then he doesn't have the boost anymore. You can plow people with multiple single targets from Ascanor in the same turn, and he can't be stat lowered, so a bunch of teams can do anything to him. But in the flip side, Melee's team cleanse probably will last longer. So Ascanor, right now, and for a while, I think will remain like this, above Melee, but then eventually it's gonna go the other way, where Melee is probably going to be better than Ascanor because of the utility. But again, we're talking about present, and in the present, Ascanor is number 1. That was PvP, right? If we're talking about the whole game, if we're including all of PvE, I'm talking all of PvE, this is how the list goes, right? Sabnak, obviously at the bottom. She has no utility anywhere at all. Like, Any difficult activity, she can't be used. She's garbage. And that's really it. So, she's garbage for PvE. And we already discussed she's the worst for PvP out of the 5. Being the worst of the 5 doesn't mean she's bad, by the way. She's a good unit in PvP. I want to clarify this, but it's just like, you're competing with the other UR festivals is not really fair. Now, you know that what the crazy thing is? I'm not too opposed to say number 4 is Arthur. And this is what's funny, you know, because everyone was shitting on them for saying Arthur is number 4. If their angle is whole game, I can see arguing for Arthur being number 4, but the reason why I would still say Gaffer ends up being number 4 is because not only PvP is a much higher pulling force for the ranking, we're talking whole game here. I'm not isolating PvE. I'm not isolating them. I'm talking whole game. PvP is a much higher, you know, priority on this ranking than any other game mode, regardless, right? And also, Gaffer can be using like what, one activity? It's a Demon King fight. That's the only place this Gaffer can be used in PvE. It's just the Demon King fight. Tell me another place. And don't come and say, oh, you know, the boss that came out with the anniversary, the one that you can true turn. No, difficult activities. You can't use them in Demonic Beast because they are anti-rank up, and even if they weren't, it's just really not ideal. You could use them on Rat, actually. You could, it's just not great. Like, people do for, like, the sake of diversity on the teams, but, like, it's just... Why? Why would you do that? There's better options. He just really ain't all that. And then for the Demon King fight, you can just use Halloween Gaffer. I would say Festival Gaffer is better because of the self-rank up. It can be much better, but it's not that much better that I'm like, oh yeah, you need him. You need him for PvE. So he's still number 4. Even though I would, you know, argue that I can see more of why they ranked it like this if it's whole game than if it's just PvP. I still think Gaffer is number 4. Arthur is obviously number 3. Let's move on. Askener is number 2. This is where, for sure, there's no way anyone can argue that Askener is better than Melee if it's in the terms of the whole game. Because when you're talking, you know, in the scope of the whole game, like I've mentioned, the PvE activities that you play in the game are mainly to, you know, get stuff for PvP. So in a way, they act as a resource fund for PvP, right? You know, I don't think that's anything wrong to say. There's anything wrong with saying that. In any way, Melee is good for everything. He is the best unit for everything that there is to do with PvE. Maybe not some farming stuff, but like, who cares? And then he's second place for PvP. Yeah, I think if you're talking the whole scope of the game, Melee is still number 1 in the game. So, just to reiterate for anyone that skipped, Askener number 1 PvP. But in the scope of the entire game, I don't think anyone can argue that Melee is number 1. So, it's really difficult for me to even think of them making a character better than Melee for the whole scope of the game. That's just how OP he is. It's just so absurd. Everything that he does, the self-cleanse, the absurd like one hit that he does, because when we're talking about PvE, that one hit is way better than in PvP. So, yeah, that's really it.